Hello, Bill Carroll for Zennie62 Sports Media. And of course, the coaching carousel continues to turn. And I threw out some names earlier about some of the jobs. And obviously, Deion Sanders has found his way to Colorado. And that's going to change the game a little bit for a few different programs. So once one job is filled and another one is open, Jackson State is going to have to fill that position. And there are several names that should come up. And some people will talk about, sort of the celebrity culture coaches again, guys like Ed Reed. And I can't say there's a 100% chance that a guy like Rod Woodson or Ed Reed doesn't end up there. I just think it's highly unlikely. I think what's more likely is that you're going to get a coach who is hopefully a rising young coach. And I'll start with some of the ones that are towards the top of my list. In the interest of full disclosure, I'm a fan of Brennan Marion. And first of all, right, Hampton born. I mean, how do you not love that he's from the 757? So, full disclosure, I'm always going to root for people from Tidewater. But he's got head coaching experience at the high school level and was successful. In 1 year, he came to a program that was 1-9 the year before, turned them completely around, and got them into the playoffs. Then he took what he called his go-go offense, which took principles of old school triple option and modern spread concepts, a little bit like flex bone, but spreading it out and throwing it more. Then he becomes Howard's offensive coordinator. So for those of you thinking about, does he have any sort of HBCU experience? The answer is yes. And he revolutionized and sped up and made much more fun, as someone who's watched Howard football, their offense. And in that year that he was there, they beat UNLV September the 13th, 2017, as a 45-point underdog, which, since they've been keeping track, was the largest point spread upset in college football history. Brennan Marion helped to do that. Was quality control at Arizona State after that, running backs coach at Oklahoma Baptist University. Then went back to Howard as offensive coordinator. Was Howard defensive coordinator. Then from there, he joined Mike London's staff at William and Mary and was their offensive coordinator. Then left that job to take a job with Hawaii, where he was, I would say, a very, very good fit. Then he goes to Pittsburgh and helps to mold a Bolitnikoff Award winner, and worked with Mac, worked with all the receivers there, and it was one of the best receiving groups in college football. Now he's a passing game coordinator, wide receiver coach for Texas. Is he ready to be a head coach at a place like Jackson State? I would say yes. Someone else that I would at least consider amongst some of the more impressive young coaches out there is Sharon Moore. And first of all, obviously places like Louisville are going to have him on their short list, I'm assuming, as well. And is he beyond ready to be a head coach? I think that's the exact quote that he used to describe himself. I'm going to say yes. Another guy feeling old that I remember as a player quite well from his days at Oklahoma playing for Coach Stoops. And Coach Moore is the co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. He's also worked with tight ends in his career. Like I said, was a very fine offensive lineman himself. Some of the things that he brings to the table. He's worked at Louisville before, so obviously people are pointing to that because he was a GA there, then a tight ends coach there, was at Central Michigan as a tight ends coach, then later was an assistant head coach, tight ends coach, and run game coordinator at Central. Made his way to Michigan, where he's, like I said, the offensive coordinator. Once again, he's 36 years old. Some people see that as a strength. Some people see that as a weakness. Certainly, if I'm Jackson State, I'm making that call. And like I said, I know he's very much on the radar at Louisville. Other assistant coaches that I'm hoping will get an opportunity, and of course I do believe will get an opportunity during this hiring cycle, include Ryan Walters at University of Illinois. Another young coach who has made immediate impact every place he's gone. He took an Illinois defense that was below the middle of the pack, quite frankly, and turned it one of the better defenses in the country. Also, once again, was at Colorado as a player. I don't know if he's going to receive a call with the current administration now at Colorado, but, was a terrific safety there. His father had actually played quarterback back in the 80s. I've watched both generations, and his babysitter, believe it or not, was Eric Bieniemy, a name that may be bandied about some of the head coaching positions. Of course, he's been discussed a lot. I want to focus on younger coaches this time. He also was a student assistant at Colorado, worked with the secondary, went from there to Arizona, was a cornerbacks coach for Oklahoma when the Sooners went to the Cotton Bowl in 2013, coached in North Texas, and then has been at Memphis. Well, was there, I think, for 2 seasons. He was Gary Pinkel at Missouri, and then Barry Odom. Followed Barry Odom from Memphis to Missouri, safeties coach, became defensive coordinator, full-time after being the interim defensive coordinator, secondary coach. And then when they changed over to Drinkowitz, he held over. It was holdover for a while, but then he left. He was actually one of the finalists, obviously, for some other jobs. But Brett Bielema beat out the other contenders. So way to go, Coach Bielema. Full disclosure, my master's degree is from University of Illinois. I have connections there a little bit. I was myself a graduate assistant many years ago at University of Illinois. But, Jim Knowles, Barry Odom, other guys, like I said, were considered. He settled on Walters, and Walters immediately began to improve not just secondary play, and look at the impact he's had on the career of Sidney Brown. I just think that Sidney Brown would have been good under any circumstances, don't get me wrong, but I truly believe that Ryan Walters helped to grow him. So if you're interested in going offensive-minded, guys like Sharon Moore and Brennan Marion, Jackson State, Louisville, everybody, frankly, should be thinking about them. But going on the other side, if you want to go defensive, it'd be hard to do better than Ryan Walters. These are bright, hardworking young coaches. I'm going to mention one other person. This person is currently a head coach at Marshall University. That's Charles Huff. He particularly is known for his work with running backs. Look what he did with Kalen Laborn, having lost Mr. Rasheen Ali, who was his best running back last year due to some personal issues. Kalen Laborn comes from Florida State and kills it, over 1,400 yards, I believe. I know it's over 13, maybe 14. These are coaches that immediately change programs. I think Coach Huff would do very well at Louisville. I think Coach Huff would do, I don't know if he would go, sort of seen as a downward move to an FCS program. So I think that places like Louisville should consider him. Frankly, I think even a place like Stanford should consider him. I think that when people say, the reason that we don't see more black head coaches is X, frankly, it's an excuse. There's lots of great, talented, hardworking, smart, accomplished young both coordinators and black head coaches at smaller programs that you should, like I said, you hear their names constantly. So I'll move on later into my coaching carousel series to talk about some of the other sort of more off the radar contenders.